Hello everyone, it's Kevin from Coding Pals, and today we're going to be looking at the Canadian Computing Competition 2015 J2 Happy or Sad. So, the question goes that we often include emoticons in our text messages to indicate how we are feeling. The three consecutive characters colon, dash, bracket indicate a happy face, and the three consecutive characters colon, dash, bracket the other way indicate a sad face. Write a program to determine the overall mood of a message. And the input specification states that there will be one line of input that contains between 1 and 255 characters. And the output specification states that the output is determined by the following rules. If the input line does not contain any happy or sad emoticons, output none. Otherwise, if the input line contains an equal number of happy and sad emoticons, output unsure. Otherwise, if the input line contains more happy than sad emoticons, output happy. Otherwise, if the input line contains more sad than happy emoticons, output sad. So let's just look at the sample input here. As you can see, there are two happy emoticons and one sad emoticon, so we get happy. So let's get started. Firstly, we need to take in our input. So for that, we will do n equals int input. And then we need to make a counter for a number of happy emoticons and a counter for the number of sad emoticons. So we'll use H for happy and S for sad, and we'll set both of them to be 0. And now we want to actually run through our input to see kind of how many sad emoticons are there and how many happy emoticons are there. So for that, we will use a for loop for I in range length n. This will allow us to kind of test every single character in our input of n. And then the first step in the emoticon is the colon. So n, the ith index of n is equal to a colon. Then we proceed on to the next step, which is to test if it's a dash. Now, we have to add this line of code right here, if I plus 1 is less than length n, in order to make sure that I is never larger than the length of n, because otherwise we'll get a out of range error when we run our code. So now we proceed. If n index I plus 1 is equal to the dash, which is the second part of the emoticon, then we continue. And here we have to use another line of code, if I plus 2 is less than length n, because we have to once again make sure that the next thing we test, I doesn't go out of the range of n. So the next thing we test is if it's which way the bracket is facing. So if n index I plus 2 equal to a bracket facing this way, then we know that's a happy emoticon. So we go to h equals h plus 1. And then if the bracket is facing the other way, for that we have to use the else if. Then we know that it will be a sad emoticon. So once we have this counter done, we'll move on to determining whether we should print sad, happy, unsure, or none. So as we can remember, if there are more sad emoticons than happy emoticons, then we print sad. But if there are more happy emoticons than sad emoticons, then we print happy. And then if they are the same, then we print unsure. So if number of happy emoticons equal to number of sad emoticons, we print unsure. However, we have to look at the case where there are 0 happy emoticons and 0 sad emoticons, because we know in that scenario we actually print none. So we have to make sure that happy is not equal to 0. And we don't have to make sure that sad isn't equal to 0, because if happy is equal to sad and happy is not equal to 0, then that means sad is also not equal to 0. And now we have only one case left, so we can just use an else statement to do that. However, instead of else, we can also say else if happy is equal to 0, and sad is equal to 0. So now we have our code. And we can submit it, and make sure you choose Python 3. And yeah, we are done.